Good evening, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good night, enjoying life, living life, loving life. We're going to hang out for a few and let some people join up here. I posted a notice that I was going to be doing this, so we're going to see if we can get a few people in here. In the meantime, those that are here, please share this. Please get this out there. I'm sure you're not the only ones that's wanting to figure out this issue with the master trust account, so please share. When I get done with the video, like always, I'm going to post my other forum links with the PayPal link. Just like everybody else, I need all the love I can get, so please be willing to hit that share button with the PayPal link as well and send me some love. In the meantime, just so everybody knows, I've been involved in this, quote, never-ending Zoom, and when I get done here with this video, I'm going to post that Zoom link. And what it is it's been going on for 22 days where we've got all kinds of great minds discussing everything. And so what happens is it runs for a certain number of hours and then it automatically shuts down, and then the guy that's running it, Derek Gonzalez, will turn around and post that link up again so it starts up. So 22 days so far, great Zoom, great minds. And in the meantime, let's get started with this, because like I said, I know a lot of people are interested in figuring out this master trust account. And so with that, again, one more time, greetings everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Getting on to help explain at least what I see about the master trust account and where it's at. And so before we get started, I want to make a note. I'm sure everybody that's watching is already quite familiar with the concept that the post office is also a court and a bank. And it's got triple functions. And when we look at that, if they're operating with securities, which is those stamps, that's an obligation or other security of the United States under 18 U.S.C. 8. And therefore, with that stamp, they're operating as a fiduciary in trust of an obligation of the United States with a security that was issued and placed on the face of an envelope. Then they cancel that, showing that they have fulfilled their obligation on that security. The instrument inside is different. The instrument on the inside is another security. It's just in a different form. So, when we deal with that stuff, these guys have to know the law, the securities, and of course, their own job description as a postmaster. So we see the Title 39 Code of Federal Regulations, Part 964, and they're talking about rules of practice governing disposition of mail withheld from delivery pursuant to 39 U.S.C. 3003 and 3004, United States Code. And this is the judicial procedure, folks. Petitions. It's got the authorities, the scope, the petitions, notice of hearing, answer, summary judgment, filing, and service. Hearings, election as to hearing, default, presiding officers, discovery, interrogatories, admission of facts, production and inspection of documents, evidence, transcripts, computation of time. Remember, I keep telling everybody, it's not about a matter of space. A contract isn't a matter of space. When we see that tract of land, it's not the space of the land. It's how long it's been in the family. It's a computation of time. Continuances and extensions, proposed findings of fact and conclusions of law, decisions, appeal, filing agency decisions, or final agency decisions. Compromise and informal dispositions, orders, modification or revocation of orders. We got our first Got our first thunderstorm hitting Iowa here. Modification of revocation of orders. Official record. Public information. And the very last one they put is ex parte communications. This is the most important one. We're going to communicate in private. We're not going to be partial. We're going to exit the partiality. And we're going to go private as the whole. The whole unit. Okay? So this is the one link I'll be sending. It talks about the judicial code and everything, how the procedure works. Now when we get to okay, that's in regards, we might end up, I can't remember what I tagged that for, but we might go over that here. But in regards to the Postal Service again, this United States Postal, about USPS.com. And this is one of their own bulletins, Handbook F101, Revision, Reconciling Master Trust Accounts. An ex parte trust, a private trust in private communications. And then again, it's going to tell you the field accounting procedures, roles and responsibilities, field unit managers, weekly responsibilities, monthly responsibilities, customer business mail activity, advance deposits, reconciling advance deposits. Very important here. We'll be discussing that here shortly. Differences identified on the Narrowcast Master Trust Exception Report upon receipt of the report. This is going to be your ex parte communication, reporting to them the differences identified for their Narrowcast Master Trust Exception Report. Non-postal one is PS Form 3083. Otherwise, you can do it electronically, or you can use the definitive paper form, PS Form 3803, Trust Accounts, Receipts, and Withdrawals. Receipts and withdrawals. They can do that at the post office. With the customer, or with the Master Trust Customer Report, the report I just told you, you're going to give them a customer report through the person. The person is the customer. The man is the client. Okay? You are going to be the client, and you have to submit a Master Trust Customer Report through the person, the customer, in the ADM or the Weekly Trust Expense Activity Narrowcast Report. So once you set up a trust with these guys, you want to make sure they're the ones doing all the reporting, and they've got to do it according to monthly responsibilities and weekly responsibilities, according to their roles and responsibilities, and through your report as a client, giving them a customer report. You're establishing your trust with them. For withdrawals from customer advance deposit accounts. So who's giving the advance? Are they giving you the advance, or is it the customer advance deposit accounts? It's withdrawals from the customer advance deposit account. Recording postage statements. That sounds a lot like recording postage stamps, but it is, I assure you, recording postage statements according to the Master Trust Customer Report. It's the statement you give in that customer report. Postal one, units. And we're not talking about dollars. We're not talking about Federal Reserve notes. We're not talking about motor vehicles according to the manufacturer's statement of origin. If you look on the manufacturer's statement of origin of a mini bike, it will say unit. Motor vehicle is not a unit. It is a definition of a particular unit. Customer business reply mail and postage due activity. We're going to go over Postal Service Form 4245. Somebody remind me if I forget that. I don't have it up here in my links, so remind me. Then it talks about reconciling advanced deposit accounts. Withdrawals from customer advanced deposit accounts. Recording daily invoices according to their duties and obligations of monthly responsibilities and weekly responsibilities. All your daily activities have to be recorded, and they are then put in the weekly report, and then once a month they do a report on the weekly reports, and they issue a weekly report, and that has to all be inventoried or assessed annually. Okay? MicroStrategy Analytics and Mobility Narrowcast Server System. It's their own server system. Okay? That's why they're going all electronic. And this is the banking manual for the post office. It's going to tell you everything you need. Document formatter. Everything. It's got all you need to do everything electronically online. However, like I pointed out, they still issue the definitive paper forms. You cannot let them get rid of the definitive paper forms. If they try to do everything through the electronic form, what they're doing is they're not allowing you to give a wet ink signature on a contract and make it valid between two private men. They're trying to subject everybody to an electronic form, which is actually a violation of trust administration, because the duty of a trustee is a physical thing and not an electronic thing. There has to be a substance, a substantial obligation, and that's the physical obligation. Okay, here we're going to see a thing of postal terms. This is their dictionary. And as you can see, it's got a lot of terms, just like anything else, any other dictionary. Okay, the first one we're going to go to is advanced deposit account. I'm going to give you all the links because I've got a lot of links, and I'm not going to sit here and try to post all these in the comment section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this video, and when I get done, then I can post it. A liability, that way you guys can do your research. Plus this video will be here and you can go through with the video after you pull up all these links and go word by word and stop the video if you need to. Whatever. A liability account. It's a liability account. What's that tell you, folks? The liability is known. There is a liability on account into which a mailer, that's you, you're the one mailing it, You're the point of origin. You're the mailer. Deposits funds. Sounds a lot like a bank. That are maintained by U.S. Postal Service to pay for future services. Not now time for services. Future services. Used by the mailer. Does that define services? Nowhere will it define these services. Services is quite ambiguous, as in public service. As in if an officer is called because you're giving the postmaster a hard time, and that postmaster doesn't know he's a federal agent, and he calls a local municipal agent, the liability of account holds both public servants to the trust agreement. Now who is under service? Future services. Otherwise, you keep it private, Mr. Postmaster. You know your job because I know your job. You don't know your job and you want to call the police on me? That's a signal to me that you don't know your job and I am going to fire you for incompetence in international matters of a protected person. Used by the mailers such as permit imprint mailings. So if it's used by the mailer, can the mailer be the one producing it? Such as a permit imprint mailings? We'll be discussing that. If they have a right to do it, you have a right to do it. You have the right to do it and construct it right in with that liability. Business reply pieces. Postage due mail, or periodicals, also called trust fund account. So when we go and we look up these other accounts, the next one we see is in regards to the trust, centralized account processing system. Folks, do you recognize that? Does that say caps? So you suppose the guy that's sitting in the suite, that post office suite, you suppose that should be the all caps name? Just saying. A postage payment system that business mailers can use to fund permit imprint, business mail service, merchandise return service, postage due, USPS, corporate accounts, and address element correction. What's that address element correction, folks? Do you suppose that is rerouting everything to the private estate through a different address than one using a zip code? How about if that address element that needs to be corrected, instead of it being care of, it's actually the clearing office, and it's not PO as in post office, it is actually purchasing office. Are you guys paying attention? Had they misled you with the misnomers of C/O and PO because they are initializing them? So instead of putting CO, should you maybe put clearing office and then your name and then purchasing office, the all caps name, suite number with the box number, and that's all going to be under the physical post office address with the city, state, and zip. Now you're using the postmaster in the trust capacity that he's in as the co-trustee with you. CAPS is an electronic alternative to presenting checks. Real quick. Presentment means a demand. So even when they're offering you a commercial presentment, they are actually demanding. We're going to flip the script. We're going to flip the script. And we're going to present them with checks in electronic form that's already under that demand of the liability we place with the agreement, the master contract agreement. Checks and cash for postage and fees at multiple post offices. The executive suite is going to be at one office, but all of them are going to get notices that, hey, the liability's already been placed here. This is the home office. CAPS offer two account types. A centralized trust fund account using electronic funds transfer. To the CAPS bank. So you're going to have a bank involved in there somewhere, but it's going to do all the electronic transfers and funding through that bank and not the post office. The funds at the post office is going to be a silver coin in a little purse, known as a little brown envelope, held by the post office as escrow. Or you could do it through a private entity holding it as escrow, as long as the claim is made in the liability report, prior to mailing and centralized debit account. So they first have to make sure that they have the ability to charge. If somebody already has consideration on the table that they cannot match, then they cannot charge in other considerations. They must come with equal consideration that has already been placed on the table. Pure and simple. In which a customer designates a debit-enabled bank account for postage charges. In which a customer designates a debit-enabled. See, it's debit-enabled because you're the one that's going to be placing that silver coin in a purse in escrow for the trust, connected to the centralized trust fund account using electronic funds transfer, which is an automated clearinghouse through the TDA, and the post office uses automated clearing house as well. We're going to show you that here later. And like I said, it's a customer trust fund account that is set up on your side. You're the trustee of that. They are the trustee. The Postal Service is the trustee of the centralized trust. And it says, see trust fund account. Master trust account. An advanced deposit account. Isn't that what we started out with? So now we're back full circle. That first one we read, an advanced deposit account, is the master trust account. And then they turned around and defined it as a trust fund account and associated it with a centralized trust fund account. Okay? Maintained for payment. Payment. Not paying, not for the paying of postage, but for the payment of postage. Or a service. Again, there's that service. This is uniform throughout all jurisdictions, people. This is how all of the commercial trusts work. Such as permit imprint, periodicals, business reply mail, postage due, and priority mail express services. Separate accounts are maintained for each service by the customer. So you're going to set up your original account. You're going to get a firm mailing book. You're going to get a manifold registry dispatch. For your private mailings, you're going to put them on your manifold registry dispatch book. For any accounts other than that, say an officer gives you a citation, you're going to open up an account. You're going to deposit that citation in that account. It is an instrument. You are now going to negotiate that instrument. That instrument has 2 signatures on it. The officer's signature, your signature. You get it? Now the prosecutor issues you a summons because you don't go to court. You open another account. You put that summons into that account. You deposit that summons into the account. You withdraw the officer's account, the funds, the instrument, and you deposit it into the prosecutor's account. That's an allongement. That's an attachment. Now you're going to now you've got 2 people negotiate, but you're going to allonge them, attached and incorporate, so you can treat it all as one action. Now the prosecutor is the one that's acting as the public trustee on account. Postal Service trademark, Retiree Health Benefits Fund. Health Benefits Fund. In that liability agreement, you're going to let them know that you've been qualified as you've been classified as a Medicare qualified government employee under the Health Benefits Fund. You're going to retire from that. You're no longer going to execute those demands in that office. You're now taking office of the executor of your estate privately. and it's a trust fund in the U.S. Treasury established by the Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act of 2006 that is used to pre-fund, not refund, pre-fund retiree health benefits. They're attacking my health. It is not healthy for them to attack me. I am going to pre-fund it with their deposits. The law requires U.S. Postal Service to make annual payments for the first 10 years at set amounts, after which the annual installment is computed according to a formula. See what's going to happen there? You're going to run your court right here in this trust with the post office as the arbitrator, because he's got a fiduciary duty on those securities instruments. And there's that trust fund account that he mentioned earlier. And it says, again, a liability account for which a future claim for postage or service can be made for the funds on deposit. The customer deposits funds into the account. Once you get your first claim, you no longer have to be totally dependent upon that silver dollar, and you can open a, let's say, Charlie's College Fund, Premium Health Insurance Fund. You get to title it yourself, whatever you wish to call it, and it's going to be associated with the original trust account. And USPS withdraws funds at the time payment for postage or fees is required. Can anybody require postage or fees? Nope. Can never be required unless you are in contract with them. Otherwise, they can't demand anything. Pure and simple, folks. The next one. You know, everybody's ranting and raving about them bid bond, performance bonds, and payment bonds and everything, and the insurance and the taxes and everything. And you know those bid bond, performance bonds, you know, FS 24 and 25 and 25A and the 90, 91 and all this other. You know what? They're all right here. Every last one of them. Real quick here, folks. I'm going to go over this real quick. Pay attention. Bonds. General definition of policy. Bonds and bonds other than bonds required for construction contracts. In other words, that would be performance contracts. So they can have bonds for materials, equipment, and services. And performance guarantees should only be obtained when needed to protect the interest of the Postal Service. By placing that silver coin in the purse, that you're giving an offer. If they refuse that offer, they are refusing payment. They can't do that. You're tendering them an offer in an international forum. You're offering them substance over their form. Purchase plans must describe and explain any requirements for bonds and performance guarantees. So it's got a purchase plan. That's why I said it's the purchasing office, not post office. And it's the clearing office, because you're going to clear out things just like an automated clearinghouse. You're going to close out the account. You've got the annual bond. Bond, in simple form, is a written instrument executed for the benefit of the Postal Service as security for the supplier's obligations. Remember, you're the mailer. That's the same thing. You're going to supply them. What are you supplying them? You're supplying them with the consideration of that silver coin that holds them to their future obligations to perform under their subordinate form. And to assure, not insure, to assure payment of any bonded loss. Loss. If they're using Federal Reserve notes and they say they lost $125,000, but $125,000 in Federal Reserve notes has zero intrinsic value, they didn't have any loss. Consent of surety, fidelity bond. Oh, nice one. Patent infringement bond, payment bond, performance bond, irrevocable letter of credit. Oh no, is that in regard to an irrevocable trust? Uh-oh. Why is it irrevocable? Because only one party has brought substance to the table. Only one party can place substance on the table. Only one person can put substance consideration on the table. Pure and simple. Penal amount is the amount specified in a bond. There are two forms of money. That which is expressed by weights and measures, and that which is expressed by a peso, a sigil, expressed in terms of dollars or a percentage of the contract price. The contract price are the assets. As the maximum payment, again, there's that payment. It's not the maximum amount to be paid or a maximum paying of, but the maximum payment. It can never be had. It's the intent to pay, for which surety is obligated. Surety of an individual or corporation legally liable for another's debt. You cannot be legally liable in a physical form. You can only be legally liable to go ahead and try to color within their lines. If they keep giving you pictures and you can't color in the lines, they're gonna fail you. If they fail you, what class is that? Do they declassify you? Really think about this stuff, people. The legal liability only exists on the paper. If the words on the paper are formed in its proper sense and it has equal or has valuable consideration and nobody's coming to the table with valuable consideration, now you can hold them legally liable for non-performance. You have a suite with an office of an executor and you can execute through that office. Or failure to satisfy a contractual obligation. The contractual obligation here is that you've placed consideration on the table that is a substantive asset, not a monetary asset that they were trying to convey up here. Performance and payment bonds for construction contracts. This is for your construction sites. When they get a community a lot set up and they split it up, they take a parcel of land and they split it up into 50 different parcels and they start construction on it. You have a construction contract for a real estate construction, building a gated community. Okay? Then they talk about performance and payment bonds for other than construction contracts. This is all the people that work through employment contracts. Whether it be the guy at the local burger joint that's serving the guy that just come into the line at lunchtime because he was working at the local work site. Or even the banker on the other side of the restaurant that's taking up the tax agent, the tax preparer. It's all performance and payment bonds other than construction contracts for the real estate constructions. Performance bonds, payment bonds, patent infringement bonds, fidelity bonds, Contract postal unit bonds. That's the bond you're going to set up. Let me go back through this so you can see it. I guess I messed that up. Performance and payment bonds other than construction contracts. Then they talk about performance bonds, payment bonds, patent infringement bonds, fidelity bonds, contract postal unit bonds. What's that contract postal unit? That's that silver dollar asset in escrow. Impose obligations on a supplier similar to those required under performance. What is the obligation? The obligation it's going to impose upon me is that I act or operate in trustee fashion from there on out. In order to obligate myself in that trustee position, I must know how to be a trustee. Required under performance, payment, and fidelity bonds. A fidelity bond in an amount sufficient to protect the interest of the Postal Service may be required for any contract that requires supplier employees to handle Postal Service funds. Supplier employees. If I'm the supplier, and I'm making this clear, he's only the carrier. I am the supplier. I'm the supplier of the contract. I'm the one that's offering the contract. He's the carrier of the contract through his obligations of performance under the centralized trust, which is where they get their Postal Service funds. When a fidelity bond is required, fidelity bond requirements must be included in the solicitation. So as a trustee, if I'm going to step up into the trustee position, I have to know what the fidelity bond requirements are, and they just told us. Contract postal unit bonds. And the amount must be reviewed periodically to ensure that the Postal Service interest is adequately protected. Until they come out of bankruptcy, it is adequately protected because they are insolvent. Contract postal unit bonds impose obligations on suppliers similar to those required under performance, payment, and fidelity bonds. Generally, contract postal unit bonds are required before a contract postal unit contract may be awarded. But in certain circumstances, this requirement can be waived by the contracting officer. Okay, here's the interesting note, folks. When you offer up that prepaid account number, as I've shown you in that franking note, they recognize that. That's going to be your recognition for their Postal Service funding on the one side through the centralized trust. The silver coin is going to be the recognition for the man on the other side, known as the client, that gives all the signatures. That's how that's set up. Other types of bonds, you could do silver surety bond instead of the silver coin in the purse. All different kinds of ways to put consideration on the table, folks. You can put a gold ingot up there, silver ingot, have your own medallion stamped right into it. Bonds other than those discussed in this chapter may be required when the contracting officer considers them in the Postal Service's interests. In these cases, appropriate solicitation provisions and contract clauses must be drafted with the assistance of assigned counsel. Bring it on, boys. Bring it on. Assign your counsel. I've already got my counsel. He tells me in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So anytime you want to bring in your counsel and start slinging your words, I'm going to break down every single word. I'm going to let them know that it used to be a symbol said a whole sentence. And that wasn't until we broke down symbols into letters and then strung them together into words that all the confusion came about as to what was being said. Execution of bonds. This is why we have the executive office, the suite, the purchasing office. It's going to have prescribed formats, other formats, original copy, authority of agents, partnership as principal, and a date. Very simple contract. Then you can do contract modifications. Every time you need to open a new account, you can modify that contract to align that new account to the master account. It's a contract modification. You got to let them know. Sureties, acceptable sureties. Bonds must be supported by acceptable corporate sureties. It must have a title. Or by assets acceptable as security for the supplier's obligation. Corporate surety is that number. Or by assets acceptable as security for the supplier's obligation is the silver coin, the escrow, the silver ingot, the silver surety certificate, whatever it is. It's always nice to give them consideration on both sides, particularly if you know what the conversions are. This is that number. This is the coin. Clause 7.2. Additional bond security must be included in all contracts for which a bond is required. When we issue a bond showing this is sitting in escrow with the post office, we can just reissue that bond with a new number for everyone that comes against us. That ticket, we're going to attach that bond and deposit it into an account. Citation number, is going to be the account number. The title is going to be the officer's name. Prosecutor steps in and gives you the summons. The account number is going to be the summons number. The title is going to be the prosecutor's name. Corporate sureties. Deposit of assets instead of surety bonds. Irrevocable letters of credit. It talks about all of this stuff, people. I'm not going to go through this. Like I said, I just want to point out the main points. Contract administration. Information and notices to sureties. You have to give them notice. So when the officer gives you that citation, you take it to the postmaster, you draw up your bond, attach it to that citation, open up a new account under that citation number with that bond attached to it, and title it under that officer's name, and then you're going to send him a notice that he has now been named as a surety on that account. That surety is now compelled to performance under the centralized trust as a public trustee. Furnishing information to subcontractors and suppliers. You're going to give them a public notice. You're going to notice everybody every chance you get. That officer issues a citation, you're going to send him a notice. Along with that notice, you're going to send a notice to his superior executive and giving him notice to notice all co-workers. Notice of principal is notice to agent. Notice of agent is notice to principal. Failure to perform will be held under the same surety. You will be given I will open an account in your name. Surety takeover agreements. Contract completion. See, when you're doing this through the post office, like I said, they know the judicial performance of these courts. They are a court themselves. You've offered that you give them in the ex parte communication, and now we're sitting here with a public trustee that's offering demands through solicitations of presentments and saying that you got to do this, this, and this when that's just not so. And by doing so, you can prove that they are violating the trust simply by opening an account in that centralized trust, naming them with the evidence, putting the facts on and for the record. It's a superior record. You've already opened your common law court. You already entered ex parte. Again, insurance, fixed price contracts. That's your fixed price contract because you're the only one that's brought consideration to the table. So all prices are now fixed. They will not be charged. Errors and omissions insurance. Contract clauses. Know what the various different contract clauses are. I can go over that with you too. There's one of the main contract clauses is to know that contracts are not enforceable because they are arbitrary. Arbitrary means that there is arbitration. It is not mandatory. So that means anytime you find something that's detrimental, you can create or just by stating that it's detrimental, it creates by operation of law an automatic estoppel because there is detriment. Contracts have equal consideration and equal benefit. If at any time a contract becomes observably, patently observable that there is detriment and is causing harm, injury, damage, or loss, it is an automatic estoppel. No one can demand anything. Taxes, federal excise taxes, state and local taxes, applicability, contract clauses. Again, it talks about contract clauses at the bottom. The next one is request for confirmation of authorization to mail at nonprofit U.S. Postal Service marketing mail prices. You want a confirmation that your ex parte communication, that there's consideration been put on the table, is accepted. You want a confirmation letter to put in your private estate trust. This is information detailing that. I don't recommend using this form. I recommend using the information to draw up your own confirmation of authorization for nonprofit or non-charged mail use. Franking notes. What's a promissory note? It's a notice to pay, a promise to pay. What's a franking note? Well, obviously by using franking note, it's of the same species. We'll explain that later. Firm mailing book for accountable mail. For accountable mail. When that officer pulls you over alongside the road, you're going to hold him accountable. You're going to hold the account. You have to open the account to hold it. So, you register that through the firm mailing book that you opened a new account and this piece of mail came through. Or this, what was it earlier? They call it a periodical. Periodically, that officer stops somebody across on the road and issues them a negotiable instrument. It's up to them to negotiate it. Okay. This is what's the public trustees in violating you. Your debt collectors sending you collection letters. You're going to open an account. You're going to send them a notice back, showing that you have placed a bond. And that bond is placing them as surety on this account. And that is a firm offer. That is a firm offer. Amendment and offer in return. They either accept and complete the contract with good faith, in good conscience, for good reason, as our brother Derek says. Or they prove violation or breach of contract on the face by dishonor, and therefore in public capacity as a trustee have also committed a tort, trespass by way of harm, trespass by way of financial harm, cause of debt, creation of debt. Okay, now we're going to talk about Frank. This is the Universal Postal Union. Regulations to the Convention Final Protocol. All postal services, postal service workers, post offices follow this protocol. And I've mentioned this before. We're talking about franking. And this is directly from the UPU International. Okay? Bern, Switzerland. And what we did here is we put franc. I've explained before the definition of franc is first. First in time, first in line. You have the first one. You have the first right to make your impression. You have the first right to put your seal, mark, trade name, trademark, embossment, autograph, signature on anything you produce. Anything. So, when we click on that, as I said, we're talking franking impressions. Which are franking notes. And when we talk about franking notes, it says impressions of officially approved franking machines valid in the country of origin. You, by this statement alone, if you know your country of origin and you know who you are in reference to that country of origin, you authorize yourself. You validate yourself by producing your own first impression. Operating under the direct supervision of the designated operator of origin. Characteristics of postage stamps and postal prepayment or franking impressions. Postage stamps and postal prepayment impressions may be of any shape, provided that, in principle, the one that's originating it, the principle, in principle, though it's spelled differently, it can be taken the same way. The one that is making it is going to take it out of himself, the principle. So in principle, in the principle, he is going to draw an impression of any shape, vertical or horizontal dimensions are not less than 15 millimeters nor more than 50 millimeters. Franken Machine Impressions. And there's 51 of these to go through, guys. So I'm just going to leave it here. I wanted to give you a good sense of what's going on. Because like I said, we make our own impressions. That's not $1. You can see clearly it's got the wavy marks. It went through the post office. They did not cancel it. It was used as a stamp on the front. A seal on the back. It was not used on an envelope, one of their ships. It was a product in the shape of a manifold purse with words coined inside. Inside, the words that were coined are a contract, and consideration has been given, and I can give consideration in return by cross signature. This is how easy it really is, people. It works. We can contract all of it through similar instrumentality. I just want to take a break real quick, go through the screen here, see what everybody's got. No worry, David, it's going to be recorded, so or it's being recorded. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to repost it, and I'll also be in that never-ending Zoom. I will be willing to replay this for anybody that has any questions, and we can stop motion it in that never-ending Zoom and go over it as much as anybody wants. But in the meantime, the next string of stuff I've got is the U.S. code, and I want to help show how we correlate. Things are uniform throughout all jurisdiction, and so we've just got to find the like wording and correlate it. That's all we're doing. It's as simple as can be. It's just that there are so many codes you got to go through to find it all. And believe you me, people, I've been doing it for the last 5 years. I quit everything else, and this is all I've been doing for 5 years straight. I assure you, I can't say off the top of my head, I'm going to guess right now, about 30,000 hours. You ask people that go to college how many hours they have in their research. I do this day and night. But anyway, again, back to the beginning of the video, like I said, we all know the post office is the post office, a courthouse, and a bank. We should treat them as such. By treating ourselves as such. We shouldn't be going to banks and courthouses. We should go to the post office, one post office, wherever we're at, and have one account already set up that all of them recognize as our own court and bank. That way, if there's ever any problem, we've got our firm mailing book with us, along with the manifold registry. We run across somebody, we want to copy down an address, we can put it in our manifold registry book. So we can keep in touch. We have people that were concerned about approaching us and giving us these presentments that are known as demands. That doesn't sound like a very conscionable presentment, does it? So we really need to think about this stuff and think about the position we've been put in through the indoctrination of the public education system, which is all enforced through the public record. I can show you that one too. I'll show you the trust on that one that operates. The Library of Congress. The trust of public information in regards to the education for humanity. Yeah, okay. Wait till you see what the trust involves. Anyway, back to this. When we think about those internal codes of the United States, the first one I'm going to point out is Title 49 of the United States Code, which happens to be transportation. Well, why are we talking about transportation? Well, aren't we the ones that carry everything back and forth, no matter by what means? In regards to broker, why would they have the term broker, a banking definition, in transportation? So now you see. In regards to transportation, a broker, the term broker means a person other than a motor carrier. I don't carry motors. Or an employee or agent of a motor carrier that as a principal or agent sells, offers for sale, negotiates for, or holds itself out by solicitation, advertisement, that license plate, or otherwise as selling, providing, or arranging for transportation by motor carrier for compensation. Did anyone in there read in there realize this includes no buying? If I'm buying something, can I be accused of selling? If I am only buying something, can I be accused of a broker unless it is specifically held out that I'm holding myself out by solicitation, or holding that instrument or item for solicitation in the future? Can't be done. In regards to a broker, they are dealing with investments. And those investments in and exposures to securitization vehicles. Oh, that's where we get the carrier. That instrument is a securitization vehicle. It's an investment vehicle. Depending on what stage it's at, depends on what it is, but it's always a vehicle. And it's involved in investment funds and other special purpose vehicles that are not subsidiaries of the covered company. The covered company is a centralized trust fund, and it's covered under Federal Reserve notes, obligations, and other securities of the United States. And you are the other special purpose vehicle, the carrier that's offering the contract, that is not covered under those subsidiaries because you're offering the silver. You're offering the actual consideration. There's an exception for certain bank activities. A bank shall not be considered. Uh-oh. If you're selling a silver coin and they refuse to buy it, are you a seller? Anybody answers that, I will give you everything I own. A broker is a mere assumption prior to the facts considered in an exchange. Nothing more and nothing less. If anybody can prove any greater, please bring it to my attention, and I will give you everything I own and start all over. Securitization vehicle. And this is in Title 15, so now we are talking commercial presentments. The term securitization vehicle means a trust. Any instrument, any investment vehicle that they instrumentalize is in a trust. Pure and simple. And under the commodity securities exchanges, that's your agriculture, people. It's a pooled investment vehicles. Every day, everyone that is born, those are agricultural certificates. The birth certificates are agricultural liens. They are investment vehicles that are yet to be securitized. So therefore they are securitization vehicles. And anybody can instrumentalize them anytime they want. Anybody. Definitions, we're going to go in and we're going to talk about debts previously contracted. Does that sound like the Constitution? Does that sound like the Constitution telling us that Congress is liable for all debts, public and private? That the state shall not coin silver and gold? If the state can't coin silver and gold, and yet I possess silver or gold coin in any form, it's the matter of the substance. And I offer it. And they can only accept it if somebody else holds it in private. Does that mean anything that comes against that estate as a public activity is a violation of that trust? I think I pose a very qualified question there. Now you've separated them to debts previously contracted in accordance to a debt currently, now time, contracted that sits on the shelf. If you guys aren't paying attention to my words, these are all very important terms to learn. Products are placed on a shelf, a ledge, and then accounted for in a ledger. Former banking premises means real estate, and the only way you can get real estate is through a real estate loan. But the only purpose you can get a real estate loan for is for fish farming. Anybody has any questions about that, I can point that out to you too. Market value means the value determined in accordance with subpart C of this part. Other real estate owned means DPC, debt previously contracted real estate. Former banking premises. Recorded investment amount means for loans, the recorded loan balance as determined by generally accepted accounting principles and for former banking premises, the net book value. Value means an opinion or estimate. Is that telling you something, folks? Are they just giving you their opinion or an estimate? And you're taking value of their opinion? Why don't you start putting your own value to things? Disposition of property acquired. That's that certificate that they handed you, that citation, the summons and everything. In satisfaction of debts previously contracted. You can take a birth certificate, I'm pretty sure of, authenticate that sucker and deposit it into an account with the post office under full faith and credit for, I believe, a certificate of indebtedness up to $250 to fund specifically a local project for private people to enjoy in benefit of replenishing and prosperity and abundance. You know, the community needs a nice new playground, don't they? That way you're not taking benefit. It is truly for the benefit of redeeming the land. Buy up the parking lots and tear them down. Buy up the buildings, tear them down. Build local gardening, community gardening projects funded through their fraud. Securities held in satisfaction of debts previously contracted. There's that birth certificate. Held in satisfaction of debts previously contracted. Put it right back in their hands. Reconvey it right back to that post office through that firm mailing account book. For a holding period, disposal, accounting treatment, ex parte, private, non-speculative purposes. You're going to put every last bit of it right back into the community, redeeming the land. That is non-speculative. Power to hold real property. A national bank association may purchase, hold, and convey real estate for the following purposes and for no others. A national banking association may purchase, but they may not sell. They can hold and they can convey real estate property, but they cannot sell. They can only convey through appropriate, lawful means. Because as a broker, they cannot own. So first, such as shall be necessary for its accommodation in the transaction of its business. So they become a accommodation party. They know where the property's at, but they can't own it. They can say, well, we're not going to tell you where the property's at, but we're going to convey it to somebody else. Have they sold it? No. All they've done is unlawfully conveyed shit to other people. Such as shall be mortgaged to it in good faith by way of security for debts previously contracted. Shall be mortgaged to it. To it. In good faith by way of security for debts previously contracted. They already get their security for debts previously contracted. We're the ones that's doing it wrong. When we hand them that security, it's supposed to have certain things done to it. They're not even giving us the security. They're not even making that presentment. That's the presentment. They're supposed to, if we're going to step up in position as trustee and they're a broker, they're supposed to demand us to do our part of the co-trustee thing and act as co-trustee by drafting the order to pay. If we don't do that, they will take it and they will convert it, they will convey it to a order, or they will convey the promise to pay to an order to pay. That's our job. The debt previously contracted is a promise to pay. We have to draft the order to pay and give it back to them. Now it's paid. such as shall be conveyed to it in satisfaction of debts previously contracted in the course of its dealings. Such as shall be conveyed to it in satisfaction of debts previously contracted. They have a promise under obligations and other securities in the course of their dealings to perform the transfer of all transactions. Fourth, such as shall purchase, as it shall purchase at sales. So are they selling? No, they're only buying. Keep trying to express to everybody, if you're only buying, you cannot be held liable. We are the ones at fault. Accept their promise to pay. Do what you're supposed to do with it. Instrumentalize it, securitize it, hand it back. Now it's securitized. Under judgments, decrees, or mortgages held by the association. So, if they're the ones that hold the mortgage and they can't sell it, but they're purchasing it at sales that are held by the, are they buying it from themselves? You see what's happening there? Or shall purchase to secure debts due it. They're putting attachments and calling it a debt. And then just reselling it. I urge people to go back to the master mortgage. It will lead you to the unlawful conveying of the land patent. Then you can call the land patent forth in your good name as true and correct, as a true beneficial heir to the intent. But no such association shall hold the possession of any real estate under mortgage or the title and possession of any real estate purchase to secure any debts due it for a longer period than 5 years, except as otherwise provided in this section. They can never secure anything because all they do is just repurchase it from themselves. That's all they're doing. So they can renew this 5-year contract and keep it in perpetuity. They can't own real estate. And their intent for real estate loans is for fish farming. Definitions. Wherever the word bank is used in this chapter, the word shall be held to include state bank, banking association, and trust company, except where national banks or Federal Reserve banks are specifically referred to. So then down here it says the term national bank and national banking association used in this chapter shall be held to be synonymous and interchangeable. The member bank shall be held to mean any national bank, state bank or trust company which has become a member of one of the Federal Reserve banks. In other words, you can be a national bank or national banking association separate from everybody, and you can have a member bank associated with you, but as a national bank in relation to a state bank or trust company which has become a member bank of one of the Federal Reserve banks. So a member bank, when they say here, which has become a member of the Federal Reserve banks, it's including all these other banks without including National Bank. Because it's the National Bank that now has to become a member bank. And you can do that. You can create an account, just like I explained with the post office. You can create your different accounts every time you get a citation. They say you have to open up a bank account. Open up a bank account through that postal portal and use that number for the account number as a member bank, not the Social Security number. Bonds and notes of the United States, bonds and notes of the United States, of the government of the United States, and bonds or notes of the United States used in this chapter shall be held to include certificates of indebtedness. A birth certificate is a certificate of indebtedness. Certificates of indebtedness and treasury bills. The Secretary of the Treasury may borrow on the credit of the United States government amounts necessary for expenditures authorized by law and may buy, redeem, and make refunds under Section 31 of this title, 3111 of this title. So when we ask for a refund, we're not asking them to put it in our hands. It's an electronic transfer to fund another account. And all the refunds are going to go back to that postal account to fund everything we do in that local community. So we can draw off of that fund. Anytime the community needs a new park, or say you got a friend that wants to open up a restaurant and he thinks it's a good idea and you think it's a good idea, post it. Post it. Certificates of indebtedness of the government. That's government. It doesn't say United States government, doesn't say state government, doesn't say county government, doesn't say, it's government. That's a general government term. It counts any public servant. Any of them. Oh, here's one. Debtor SGN Enterprises. Ran across this case. The power to alter the relative priority of claims due to misconduct of one creditor that causes injury to others is an important tool in the array of remedies available to a bankruptcy court exercising its broad equitable powers. Okay, and I left that up there because I wanted to note this, because in dealing with the United States Post Office, like I said, you're going to set up that account, and it is a CAPS bank. It does refer to CAPS bank. And so we are regarding public trust that is insolvent, and so it is a bankruptcy issue. And that's why we put the silver coin up for consideration, and they can never accept it until they come back with that equal consideration. They cannot take that coin for $1. It's the wrong species. When we set these things up, absolute now time security note. I use the Epoch security thing, and or Epoch number converter, and then I create my own little security code here. And this says that in the month of August, on the 20th or 2020 of in the year of 2020, the first notice of the first issue in regards to UPN, Universal Public Notice. The Keith Orland Little Faith-Based Union, or FBU. It's abbreviated there, but it stands for Faith-Based Union. You'll read. A private member association, an expression of my living will. Public notice. Be it known evermore to all people and peoples that Keith Orland Conrady Little has founded a faith-based union of people of the like kind, to be known as Keith Orland Little FBU, a private member association for the purpose of behaving of what is prosperous and abundant, with pure equity in nature, with absolute right of use by, through, and for Keith Orland Conrady Little of any and all real and personal effects. All events of matters of this union remain as such without dissemination. Private is private. All who wish to be of this natural union will be under the full armor of protection from dissemination of any details of this union by the whole as one. As it is written, so shall it be. Reverently, Keith. And like I said earlier, their presentments means demand made by or on behalf of a person entitled to enforce an instrument. They present an instrument saying they are entitled. By what? They're entitled to make such a demand. By what? We have to start thinking about this stuff, people.